Wow.
Well, hey.
You're way over there, Bryan.
Well, welcome. Hey.
Far, but
Yeah, hey. Hey, can you hear us out there? No, you can't. Hey, how's it going?
All right, good.
All right. Usually we begin our podcast back in 9 years ago, we started Future Commerce. And we had a little banter at the beginning. We'd say, welcome to Future Commerce, the podcast at the intersection of culture and commerce. But we don't do that anymore because who starts podcasts that way anymore? Not me.
I guess not.
No. But Bryan, Cano, welcome to the show.
honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
And we're here with a few hundred of our closest friends. Can you guys make some noise? Yeah. Are you guys enjoying the Whalies? Yeah?
All right.
That was weak. You guys tired a little bit? All right, this is going to be great. We're going to talk AI agents. We're going to talk a little bit about growing up as a brand, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you guys are on your journey to becoming more cultural in your journey. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing today. You've been here at the show. How have you been enjoying the Whalies?
Yeah, it's been great. I love attending these because the questions that are often asked and sort of the perspectives that are offered are always challenging, and it always does break sort of your status quo. It's always great to kind of not lose the forest from the trees a little bit and just understand what is going on in the landscape and zoom out. But yeah, I've been with True Classic since October. It's been an absolute journey. It feels like 10 years already, but overall, if you haven't heard about us, we're a men's apparel brand. We recently got an evaluation for $850 million, seeking to do $300 million this year, expanding to 20 stores owned and operated. We are in Target, Costco, expanding our wholesale. And so I am in charge of ensuring that we continue to see that growth.
Congrats.
Showing up in the world, making sure that we're driving growth across our U.S. business, our international business, and across all channels. But it's great to be here. I'm excited to talk about AI. I'll be honest, we ran into each other at breakfast earlier, and there was some exciting little topics about how we can hopefully give you guys some actionable next steps and things that you can start to do to integrate AI into your businesses as well.
Show of hands real quick, who's using AI right now? Show of hands, who's using AI and you know what you're doing? Okay, 2. Perfect. Real quick, who's familiar with Future Commerce? 2 people. That's awesome.
3.
All right, very cool. I'm gonna introduce you guys real quick. Bryan?
Yeah. So Bryan Lange, co-founder of Future Commerce. Future Commerce is an emerging media company focused on the intersection of culture and commerce. And we explore these topics through a variety of different means: podcasts, newsletters, reports, and books. This is our latest. It's called Lore. 280 pages of beautiful, curated content, poetry, photo essays, personal reflections, and more, focused on brand storytelling, stories you tell your customers, and the stories they tell back to you and each other, and then how that creates myth, and how the best brands in the world have actually built myths. If you think, whether it's upmarket or downmarket, the brands that have lasted the longest are the ones that have created the best myths. You think of Prada, you think of Clark's, which I'm wearing right now, you think of Walmart, you think of an emerging myth, Costco.
True Classic.
True Classic.
And I think that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here today, is how brands get to that next level, whether it's a story that your customer has and how your brand integrates into their life and their personal legend, if you will, because every person has a story, and your brand fits into that story, right? Because commerce is culture, right? And we create our world, whether we like it or not, by relating to the world in the brands and how they fit into it. And so getting back to you, Bryan, let's talk a little bit about how you are creating worlds for your customers and how you're doing that tactically with technology. So let's jump really quick into it. You are right now integrating technology into every part of the business. I think when we sat down to prep for this, you blew me away by talking about how the roles are changing every day and plugging in AI into those roles, and how you're stringing together these AI agents into interconnecting systems like Slack and finance, and it's beyond what I was understanding. So give us a little bit about how you're deploying AI today.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, by no means we're like experts, and we're definitely figuring this out as we go along. I think the first step for us is really just mapping out what does the org chart look like. And if you think about AI as sort of an employee or a resource, you can start to see where you might be looking to hire, quote unquote, different AI agents. Something that we do, and this is kind of even before we started to get down this vision path of mapping out an org chart, is like, well, what does AI like actually mean? Like what does it mean to actually leverage AI and use it? You know, the way I think about it, it's three categories. First is generative AI, and this is probably where 90% of people go and gravitate towards when they think about AI. They're thinking about, how do I make an AI video? How do I make an AI ad? How do I write copy and make things with AI? So that's pillar number one. The second pillar is regarding operations. So the sort of mundane, repetitive tasks, the things that you're constantly doing on a daily basis, where yes, you could offload this to an employee, or maybe you find a way to automate it and operationalize that system. And then the last one is regarding insights. It's how do we create, imagine a sort of a business intelligence, a data analyst, employee whose job is to obsess about your business 24/7, identify white space, identify opportunities, and then proactively come to you and say, hey, I've got this brand new idea. I think you should consider X, Y, and Z. And so when you think about AI across those three different categories, you start to zoom out a little bit and you go, wait a second, like, yeah, how do we integrate insights and proactive insights for emails? How do we do that for our ads? How do we do that for the website itself? Then you go into the operations. Well, we're often doing QA checks, quality assurance checks, to make sure that the ads are sending traffic to the right pages, that they have the right offer on them. So yeah, you could have someone manually check that every single hour, or you can find a way to build a system that will check all of your ads, check the URLs, check the UTMs, make sure that the pixel's set up correctly, and it's doing it on an hourly basis and reporting. Everything looks great, thank you, I'll be back in an hour. And then lastly, the generative, which I think is kind of self-explanatory, I won't dive into that. But for us, when we start to think about those three categories, the sort of world of opportunity opens up, and it's no longer a top-down initiative of, okay, it's all on me as the leader to find ways to integrate this. You create this framework that now the rest of the team in your organization can go, every single morning I have to take this Excel file and I have to upload it into this sheet, and then I have to pull a report on it. And they might sit back and go, wait, what if you watched a 20-minute YouTube video using Moby or using an AI enablement tool like N8N and Zapier and Asana, and finding ways to integrate and connect it all to Slack. Right now, we do have some Slack bots that are wicked awesome. None of it was built by me. It was sort of this vision and this direction of, hey, wouldn't it be cool if? And then the team kind of took it upon themselves to go and make some of these things happen. To give you some very tactical examples, I've got a guy who is managing my email program, super brilliant. He just obsesses over technology, and he has to do this Monday report. It's a read and react every single Monday. What worked, what didn't work, what are we gonna do about it? And so he's like, well, this kind of sucks that I have to do this every single Monday morning. So what if I found a way to connect all the data of my Klaviyo campaigns and email campaigns into Asana, because we map out all of our campaigns into Asana, and then I used an Asana integration with Slack, but before it goes into Slack, it goes through an AI model that measures all the insights, and it tells us the open rate, the click-through rate by segment, the performance, what worked, what didn't work. And he built that. He built that over the course of a weekend, and now every single Monday morning, we get a report on the last 7 days of our email campaigns, and what worked, what didn't work, what to do next. And that was something that he was doing, and now he doesn't have to do that anymore. He can go and focus on something else. To give another example, I have an incredible creative director, Natalie, who she's like, man, I spend so much time with photography, and like we sometimes don't get the models right, and it sometimes is like, we forgot this one product, this one color came in late, and now we have to go and reset up the entire photo shoot. And she's aware that that costs money and time and energy and effort for her. And so she was thinking, well, what if instead of shooting models, photography, how we normally do it, let's have the models pose in a certain way that we can use as sort of a baseline or a model to feed into AI, so that if I have to shoot a different style or a different color, or I have to change the model, she has all of sort of the baseline photography needed, the right angles to then use to generate new photography. And she's doing that actively.
This is like all self-directed. This is entirely self-directed. This is wild. Completely
self-directed. And I think that's where, like, in the roles of in leadership roles, you're out to create leverage. So like, if it was on me to build this on my own and say, okay, I need to go and do this, I wouldn't be having this conversation. I'd be like, okay, well, I'm still figuring out the Slack and Asana integration.
Sure.
But being able to sort of establish that vision, kind of breaking it down in a way that your teams understand, and sort of empowering them and getting them to understand that AI and technology is an ally to help you create leverage and give you time back. You now sort of democratize that out to everybody, and then everybody's working towards that vision of bringing that to life.
It's incredible. Yeah, I think what's really interesting about one of the things you said is the mindset is, wouldn't it be cool if, right? And if you could start to use your imagination more, I think that's actually going to be the role of most jobs now, is like, what can I think about how to do my job better? Get rid of things that are repetitive or like causing bottlenecks or causing delays, or anything that should be done by a machine is something that I can imagine a way to get there with AI now. And the father of cybernetics, Norbert Wiener, he was an incredible thought leader in the 1950s who perfectly predicted the future of AI, and when we would move from closed system AIs to open system AIs. He said that actually AI wasn't going to eliminate our jobs, it was going to push our brains to the absolute limits, because what we're going to have to do is, it's going to make us use our imagination more than we ever have.
It's going to make us more empathetic, right? Like, yes, as humans, we have intuition, and we often obsess over the data. But in a world where you are no longer the person that's obsessing over the data, you have sort of this counterpart that's obsessing over the data on your behalf. You now have the time to lead with more empathy and really think about that customer and think about what stage of their life are they in. And this goes back to culture, thinking about how do we reinvent or change or disrupt the status quo. And it does enable you as a marketing leader or as an organization, as a brand, to be more empathetic to your customers and sort of tap into what they're going through, the challenges that they're going through, since you no longer are zoning in on the data. And I think that's sort of an issue that a lot of performance marketers struggle with, is we often get tunnel vision. We often obsess over data so much, and we create this self-fulfilling prophecy of this works, do more of it, keep doing more of it, keep doing more of it, and you just overlook everything because you're just obsessing over the data. So I think this is a way for us to go back to human-centric marketing, thinking about, again, where is culture? How do I define culture? How do I change it? And how do I mold it to be something that allows my business and my category to grow?
So this is such a key insight. When I did strategy for 10 years at a big consulting firm, and we would sit down with the world's largest brands. Jeff Bezos very famously said, "There's very few companies in this world that last for 100 years plus." Right? What are they? Does anyone know? It's like beer brands,
Clark's,
right? And maybe a couple shoe brands, and that's it. So there's a time for everything, and very few things last for centuries. And so in the context of that quote, Jeff Bezos was saying everything sort of expires. And when you sit with a company like AB InBev, when they're thinking about how they last for a century plus, the way that they think about it is they get on a whiteboard and they draw a big triangle. And we would sit down with them, and the way that they think about this in terms of the plenitude of where they put all of their effort is a big pyramid, and at the bottom of the pyramid is tactics. So the basis on which they build the business is the very bottom of the pyramid is tactics. So we all focus on tactics, and I know that that's what we all do in this room. Up from there is strategy. Okay, so we have a lot of strategies that ladder into tactics, but what nobody spends enough time on is understanding the goals that drive the strategies. And everybody seems to focus on one goal, which is driving revenue. But there's many goals in a business, right? And there's many goals that drive other things other than revenue. And so when you understand the plenitude of goals, and you understand that there are many goals, people have career goals, people have other motivations that are other than just revenue goals, you start to understand that the thing that's upstream of goals is vision. And there can really only be one singular vision in an organization. And often when a founder leaves an organization, that's when the corporation lacks vision. That's when things go awry. And this is what happens that's why businesses tend to not last longer than a century. So when you're thinking about this, when you're trying to become cultural, you have to have a vision that outlasts beyond what got you to the 50 or 100 million mark, right? How does a company like True Classic now become more visionary that expands beyond the category that you're in at the moment?
Especially with the way that you sort of formed.
Yeah, look, when we started off, we grew because we were solving a real problem, and that was the fit, the feel, and the price. And we were there and showing up for men in a way that no other apparel brand has shown up in the past. But as we've grown, right, there's been this desire and this necessity to give meaning to the shirt, give meaning to the apparel and the clothes and the logo, and it needs to represent something in their life. It can no longer just be about the material interaction of like putting on a shirt and it's like, well, I bought it, it was a great price, it looks good, awesome. So when I'm thinking about this vision, it's something that is going to absolutely transcend like my time and tenure at True Classic. It's something that we have to start building, and then the torch has to be carried on because I'm thinking about it over a 100, 200, 300 year period. I'm wanting to do something in our media, in our culture, in a way that allows men to be more confident, as an example. Right, and let's say that is the vision. We want men to look good and feel good effortlessly, and as a result, they're more confident. Okay, great. So in order for me to make that connection and for people to think about our shirts as something that gives them confidence, I'm thinking about, well, what are all the moments in a man's life where he doesn't feel confident? It's the first interview. It's the first date. It's when he's become a new dad and he's put on a little bit of dad weight and he no longer fits into those mediums that he once had. And so for me, I'm thinking about those moments, and I'm now trying to evaluate, okay, if that's the vision and that's what I'm after, how do I start creating policies and behavior in the organization that show up for men in that way? And that could be through, let's say, a perfect fit guarantee, lifetime guarantee, where if you start off with us wearing a small or a medium and you gain weight and you go up to a large, extra large, and you're able to increase the size, you're able to trade it in for a new size. And let's say you work out again and you get back in shape, you're able to downsize again, right? So little things like that where I want the brand to show up and sort of have a significance beyond just the material and the physical aspect of the product is where my head is at. One of the things that I am exploring, and it's is the fact that we're launching a women's and kids line. And so while I originally started off thinking about the guy and his confidence, now I'm thinking about, well, how do I show up for the entire family? And how do I maybe show up at an early stage in a kid's life where maybe they're dealing with bullying, or maybe they're dealing with just uncertainty in the world. There's so much, the world is out there, it's so big. And so this is not something that will represent itself in a Facebook ad or a YouTube ad or a TV ad. It's going to be something that's boots on the ground, engagement and interaction at daycares, at schools, in sports teams, maybe even creating our own Little League, right? And like doing something that is kind of like the Boys and Girls Club of America, doing our own version of that to help the family and help children, and then sort of be that staple and that sort of nostalgic memory that as that kid gets older, right, and he's going to sway from the brand, he's going to go and or she are going to go and try different brands and products, but there's always going to be that memory in their 30s or 40s where they're going to go, you know what, there's sort of this nostalgic feeling about True Classic. I remember when I was 10 years old and I used to play baseball at the True Classic League, and you know, that just, there's this sort of nostalgic memory and sort of connection, emotional connection. So those are the things that my mind goes to, and it's all like really rough around the edges. I am really like giving you guys a peek into my mind here as I'm defining this, but this is sort of the next level of thinking for a brand like ours, where we want this to go beyond that sort of the revenue for this year or the revenue for next year or the next store that we open or the next distribution channel. We want there to be, we want to be the next Apple. And just how Apple made technology very accessible for people, right? We want to do the same thing for clothing and for style and for confidence. We want it to be effortless. And there should be sort of this, this pride and sort of it should be well received by the family now that as we continue to expand into new product lines.
That's super interesting. Yeah, I was thinking, as you said, Apple, what are some other brands you're looking up to that you see doing exactly what you're talking about in the world today? Building out an ecosystem and then having that product sort of actually be a natural part of the ecosystem they've already built.
Yeah, I mean, I think Apple's been the best, and so they are the shining example that immediately comes to mind. Other brands could be Coca-Cola, right? Like Coca-Cola did an incredible job at selling you this sort of the Christmas vibe. Everybody remembers the Christmas commercials, and it has nothing to do with soda. But you remember that ad, you remember the polar bears, you remember all of these memories of you when you're growing up, and it's very nostalgic. Now, what the issue with a Coca-Cola is that culture has shifted. Now we're all about wellness. So what does Coke have to do? Well, they need to go and acquire a bunch of other brands that can continue to tap into a new category as they see a decrease in soda and pop sales. Another great example that's a bit similar, and I think is sort of at a leading edge and could really take advantage of the shift in culture to health and wellness as a priority, is Red Bull. Red Bull is a media company. When you look at all the marketing that Red Bull does, none of it has to do with the product. They are in there showing you the lifestyle. They're there to inspire you. All of the sort of cultural shifts that Red Bull has done in the past 20 years have been through highlighting just the beauty and athleticism of human nature and the boldness of that. And none of that has to do with selling energy drinks, but they've created a sort of a distinction, or they've a connection, if you will, between that sort of bold, exciting, adrenaline-pumping activity and media that we love to watch, like the guy that jumped out of the stratosphere and like skydived from space. That's insane. That is a cultural moment where people were like, whoa, humans are incredible. How, like, and so, but it has nothing to do with Red Bull. And I think those are the types of examples that when you get to 200, 300, 500 million, and you're thinking, okay, I need to develop a brand, and I need to develop a brand that is gonna withstand time, and it's gonna outlive me, and it's gonna be in 100 years or 200 years, that next Apple, that next Red Bull. I think those are the sort of questions and sort of thought exercises that you do need to run through and see, okay, where are there good examples of this now?
Red Bull is such a great example because that's the kind of product that could have just been a flash in the pan. It could have just been a one and done, oh wow, that was really cool, I remember that from my childhood. But instead what they did was made it about more than the product, and I think that's exactly right.
We often say that if you can shape what people buy, right? If you can change what people buy, then you can change what people think, right? Which means we can change the future. And I think that's kind of what Red Bull did. I mean, if you look at the rise of extreme sport, really, it came out of nowhere in the early 90s, and a lot of that's really linked back to the rise of X Games and other things. That, like the rise of energy drinks, it all comes in category creation, and it all emerges around the same time with that, with the emergence of that brand. I think we have to look at those types with that sort of experiential marketing and that sort of an angle around culture creation. And that's where you have to be really in tune with counterculture and with subculture. And this is why we talk about what we talk about so much on Future Commerce, and it's why we write books like Lore, is because when we're talking about the subculture of van life, or we're talking about the subculture of the folks in, I don't know, the come and go gas station cultures who take selfies of themselves drinking soda every day. These sort of like weird countercultures and subcultures, there are people in this world who have very interesting niches who also care about social movements too. And the way that they take up space and the way that your brand interacts with them and engages with them, the way that you understand them and relate to them is every bit as important as the way that Red Bull does too. And I don't think that those things are relegated just to big national or global brands. I think that every brand, it's incumbent on every brand to understand and engage with it, because just the way that 2-day fast free shipping shaped the way that customers expect something of you because they got it from Amazon, I think that those sorts of norms are being applied to every brand because they get it from Nike and Adidas and Puma and everyone else.
This is essential to understand as arbitrage in the traditional channels. I shouldn't say traditionals. The modern channels has dried up. Everyone knows to advertise on Facebook. Everyone knows to do SEO. Everyone knows to go have an Instagram strategy. They're already flooded. It's too late to get those early gains. And so for a lot of brands that kind of came up in that world and found a way through these tactical means to go win customers, now is the moment where you have to step back and be like, okay, I have customers, I have a good product, but I grew because I figured out how to conquer a specific channel. What do I do next?
And through this entire process, talking to you guys and talking about culture, this thought came to mind. And it's all of us in this room, in one way or another, are tapping into culture, and you're doing something. And it's what's different, though, is sort of the magnitude at which you do it. As you said, the arbitrage with Meta and Snapchat and TikTok and all these other platforms, that is you creating ads or sort of tapping into a medium that is at the time very culturally relevant, right? And you sort of ride that wave, and you're there, and you're looking for the next platform. Maybe it's AppLovin, right? So you're looking for the next thing that is the next big social media platform, because that's where the culture shifted, and you want to be there. But then you start to go up a little bit because you grow. You get to 50 million in revenue, you get to 100 million in revenue. And now the magnitude in which you start to tap into culture changes. And so now that might be the van life. It might be an existing culture like, I don't know, tiny homes or nomad life, or just these little pockets of culture that exist that, kind of come and go. But the magnitude that I think what makes a sort of an Apple successful, or a Red Bull, or a Coca-Cola successful is whenever they are the ones that are shaping that culture, and they go beyond the sort of minutia, or the ones that we're all playing in, to actually let's be the ones that are owning the category, creating the category. So it's sort of a realization that I was like, that is interesting. I never really thought about it that way. But at the end of the day, when you are so in tune into how are people consuming media, how are people living their lives, what are the pain points that they're going through, you do start to think about different ways, and it does shape your marketing a little bit, and it does give you a unique angle versus chasing the same ad that other brands are creating.
So I guess the next question to sort of get us back to where we began is, we have to activate a lot of these things we're talking about in these digital channels, and we're going to use tools like AI to do it. How do we do it in a brand safe way? And can we codify everything that we're talking about into AI. How are you doing that today? And can you maybe guess how you might do it tomorrow? Like, can you codify your brand today and your brand voice and all of the brand safety things into AI and allow your team to just rip in AI so that you can get them to play in a way that allows them to play in culture? Or is that something that you still need a little safety rails on?
Yeah, so to answer the first part, right now we are arming the team. We're creating leverage. We're using AI and technology as a way to create more impact for people on my team. And what that enables is creativity being at the driver's seat, but you now have this sort of force multiplier to help you make a better impact, do things faster, cheaper. So by nature of having the human in the driver's seat, you kind of remove any of the risks on brand safety, and we have a little bit more control there. The second part of your question is very interesting. It's like, okay, well, what happens when you remove the human? Can you remove the human? Right now I am working with building and codifying all of the entire brand. I'm like doing research papers. I'm using the 4.5 and the 01 and 03 models to do like a bunch of research paper, try to do one every single day that I can read the next day. And then using that to then like continue to model and build out what our brand should be, trying to identify trends and shifts in culture that we can like get early in. And and we're doing like the brand voice and creating JSONs, and I'm creating custom GPTs and all of that. I think that there is a world where you can codify it enough. I don't know that we're there yet. I think that technology isn't there yet, but it will be very soon. I give it 2 years to where I'm expecting AI to come to me with strategy and insight and a proposal on a new way for us to grow the business and continue to make it relevant. But I think that this is where that magic happens. The empathy and intuition and sort of the human nature of it, I think, is going to continue to be something that AI can't replace. And that is what's going to be the filter to make sure that we do things that are brand safe and that are a net positive for the business. In terms of it on its own doing everything, that would be very interesting. And look, if that's the case, well, so be it. I got to go pivot and figure out what I'm going to do with my career.
I can't wait to see that future.
I think we're right there. Time here, yeah.
All right. Well, true classic. Can't wait to see what you guys do. Can't wait to see the the future of the brand. Thank you for joining us. And shameless plug: futurecommerce.com. Go check us out. Like and subscribe. All the rest. And if you want to pick up a book, we've got a few of them here. Come take it a look. Bryan, Cano, everybody, give him a hand.